So the title I put it as God's Deliverance and the Response. So the key portion that we studied from Exodus chapter 3, where we know God wanted to deliver the people of Israelites, right? How he has seen. So we know that they were in the slavery for how many years? 430 years they were in the slavery, right? Now God has seen, right? That's what God says as we read here. I have seen their affliction, and I have heard their cry, and I know their sorrows. We are serving a God who sees. We are serving a God who hears. And we are serving a God who knows, who can understand. See, certain things we may not be able to cry. They were in our hearts, deep in our hearts. So what we see here, the attributes of God. The God who sees, El Roi. The God who hears our cry. Even the things that we could not able to say it outside. God says, I know that he can understand. And then what God says here, since I have seen, since I have heard, since I know, now I have come down. And now he is ordaining Moses to go and deliver the people. And we see here the intention of God is I came down to deliver them out of the land of Egyptians and bring them out of the land unto good land and a large unto land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of Canaanites, Hittites. We know those enemies. So what we see here, so we know Israelites, how many years they wandered in wilderness? Any samvatsaralandi? 40 years. We don't see a bit that God has a heart to keep them in wilderness. దేవునికి ఎటువంటి ఉద్దేశం లేదు వాళ్ళని విల్డర్నెస్లో ఉంచాలని ఉద్దేశం లే. He just wanted to bring them out of Egypt and then put them in Canaan. దేవుని హృదయం చాలా క్లియర్గా ఉంది ఇక్కడ. So God is a God who can see, who can hear, who can understand everything. Just wanted to bring them out from the slavery, from the bondage, and just put them in a large land flowing with milk and honey. పాలు తేనెలు ప్రవహించే దేశంలోనికి తీసుకొచ్చి పెట్టాలనేదే దేవుని యొక్క సంకల్పము. That is the desire and intention of God. But we know it did not happen. Right? Why it did not happen? Why it did not happen? They didn't have కదా వారు విశ్వాసము లేక అవిశ్వాసము వలన వారు వెళ్ళలేకపోయారు. Because of their unbelief, we read in Hebrews. ఇంకోటి కూడా ఉంది. They murmured, they complained. అవిధేయత వలన అవిశ్వాసం వలన, disobedience and disbelief. The two things. And we know how they were delivered. How they were delivered from the Egypt. What was the last miracle that God has done? The blood. Passover. That is what God has chosen to deliver them. And God has instructed them to do it every year. Avuna kada? Chala clearga he gave commandments that you have to do it regularly every year in the first month and the 14th day. You know what's God's intention? God was very clear. When you go to the land, right? When you go to the land, that is where you have to do. See, they were not able to do Passover for 39 years. They did, as we see in the scriptures, they did only once. That too after the first year. So second year, in the beginning, they did the Passover. For 39 years, they were not able to do it. Part of the reason God didn't say, God said only in the land that you are going there, that is where you have to do. And another reasons also, there were so many things because they were not circumcised. It is mandatory that the person should be circumcised. Kada sunnati పొందిన వాళ్ళే దాంట్లో పాల్గొనాలి. నువ్వు దాసుడు అయినా పరదేశివైనా, even if you are a foreigner, that you have to be circumcised. It's very clear. They were in the wilderness. They were having babies and children. They didn't get circumcised. what we see, they were not able to respond. They were not able to respond to the deliverance that the Lord has ordained. దేవుడు ఏర్పాటు చేసినటువంటి విడుదల ప్రక్రియని వారు రెస్పాండ్ చేయలేకపోయారు. If God's intention is not to keep them in wilderness, తండ్రి అయిన దేవుని యొక్క హృదయము వారిని ఏ విధంగా కూడా విల్డర్నెస్లో ఉంచకూడదు అనుకుంటే, హౌ అబౌట్ సన్స్ హార్ట్? కుమారుని యొక్క ఉద్దేశం ఎలా ఉంటుంది? మరలా చెప్తున్నా, ఐఎమ్ రిపీటింగ్ అగైన్. ఇఫ్ ద ఫాదర్స్ హార్ట్ ఈజ్ నాట్ టు కీప్ దెమ్ ఇన్ ద విల్డర్నెస్, డూ వీ థింక్ దట్ ద సన్స్ హార్ట్ would keep us in wilderness for any situation? No. Wilderness అనేది ఆయన డెఫినేషన్లో కూడా లేదు. ఆఫ్ కోర్స్ జర్నీ ఈజ్ దేర్. సో విల్డర్నెస్ ఈజ్ హూజ్ ప్లాన్ ఇట్ ఈస్? ఇట్స్ అ మ్యాన్స్ ప్లాన్. మనం తెచ్చుకున్నాం అది. వీ బ్రాట్ దట్ విల్డర్నెస్ ఇన్ టు అవర్ లైఫ్స్, బట్ నాట్ గాడ్స్ ఒరిజినల్ ప్లాన్. So now they back in Old Testament, it was God came down but sent Moses. Kada? God came down. That's what we see in the scriptures. I came down, I have come down. That is the encounter at the burning bush. The God of unlimited came down to the limited and was speaking to Moses that I come down. Then you need to go and deliver them. But now the God himself came down. In the place of a Passover lamb, he himself crucified.